Hi, I'm Tricia at Club Scrap and welcome to the Boughs of Joy Card Kit Workshop. I'm so excited to take you on the journey of turning this kit into 12 beautiful holiday cards. Let's get started. I have my kit here ready to go. I also printed a copy of the instructions. You do not need to print the instructions. You can just follow along with me. We're just going to be using them once, but if you plan to recycle the instructions, maybe a printed copy would be nice. I've got my kit here and I'm going to start by setting aside the ribbons and the goodies and such, and also keep those envelopes handy. We're going to use those in a little bit, but I'll set those aside for now. And then I'm going to take all the paper that came in the kit and let's put this into the order that we'll be trimming it. So to start, I usually hold the paper upright in the crook of my arm like this so that I can see it and sort it easily. We're going to begin by finding one sheet of the brown. This is the only paper in the collection that has texture or a right and a wrong side. So this is the textured side. I'm going to put it texture side down and then find one sheet of this blue. It's kind of a nice dusty blue, a nice heavy cardstock. And then one piece of ivory, one sheet of red. And then we're going to repeat those same colors in the same order. So brown, blue, ivory, and red. Then both sheets of the metallic gold, and that's the same on both sides, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we'll take a duplex print, we'll put the blue side down, and then the duplex print will put the gold side down. It doesn't really matter because we're not adhering anything yet at this point. Now, I just want to point out that we do have two different sets of Cutaparts. So we have the set that came in the Boughs of Joy card kit. We also had an optional add-on, which were a Sacred Sentiments for your Christmas cards. So just if you're using the Sacred Sentiments version, just replace them one for one. The sentiments will be different, but the size, the direction, the color, everything else about the Cutapart will be exactly the same. So just substitute one for one. We'll choose the one that has the second column. We've got the light blue coloring going on there. So put that face down, followed by the final sheet that has a series of just dots on one little corner. So put that face down. Take the entire pile of sorted papers and flip it right back over to where we started with the brown. Let's just stack everything up. I do like to have the paper to my left and my instructions will be on my right. Now, if you do not have an accordion pocket file, it's totally okay, but you want to maintain 4 piles. Label them A, B, C, and D with a Post-it note or a piece of scrap paper. Otherwise, we're going to be staying organized with this. If you don't have this, I do have a kit and a video that you can watch to learn how to make one of your own. So the accordion pocket file will be placed underneath my trimmer here so that I can just stay organized more easily. And then as we trim the paper, we'll be putting the pieces into each assigned pocket. And then if we're going to be scoring a piece of paper, we'll set it aside in a different pile to deal with in a moment. Beginning with the brown paper, I need to find the grain direction. And to determine that, I'm going to hold that paper by an edge, study what it does, study what it sounds like. If I hold it by this edge, it's stiff and quite noisy. If I hold it by this edge, it's more floppy. So I want to place the paper into my trimmer so that it flops most easily from the top to the bottom of the trimmer, like this way. Not this way, but this way. Okay, then I'm going to take the next sheet of blue, and if you don't want to cut 2 sheets at the same time, that's okay. We can just repeat these instructions, but I'm going to do 2 at a time. So I've got the blue grain direction also dipping in the same way. Stack them neatly together, and our first cut will be at 11 1/4. So I'm going to find the hole number 11 and go to my left 1 vertical column on the trimmer. Make sure the paper is nice and straight at the top. I'll push down on this clear bar before I slice, and then allow the paper to pile up without moving it. Then slide down to 7 inches, stabilize. Then we'll rotate this large piece that's in our trimmer base and cut at 10. That gives us our first card base. So I'm going to set it aside to be scored and then pick up the narrow strip that fell, and I'll cut that at 5 1/2. So 5 1/2. This strip goes in pocket A, and then there's a little rectangle that fell from the end. It's technically a scrap. I'll put all the scraps in pocket D in case you change your mind about using them. You could always just find a little die cut or something that works for this, or when you're finished with all of your cards, just dispose of them. So again, scraps in pocket D, and then I'll pick up the next larger piece, and we'll cut this one at 5 3/4. And then I'm going to rotate this so it's vertical and cut it 3 3/4. Let's take the piece that's in your trimmer and then the larger pieces that fell. These happen to nest together perfectly. I'll show you from this side. These are going to go in pocket C, all of them. And then we have a series of smaller pieces. This narrow little strip, that's a scrap. I can pop those into a pocket D for now. And then we do have this long strip. I'm going to use it. So let's place this one horizontally at 7. And sometimes it's easier to see if we bring the paper down a bit so that I'm below the inch markings. I can find that 7 a little easier. And I'm going to place the longer strip in pocket C and the shorter one in pocket A alpha. We get to do all of that one more time. So I'll take the ivory paper next in my stack, check that grain direction, make sure it's flapping top to bottom. Grab the red, same thing. It's flapping top to bottom this way. And I'm going to cut these 2 sheets at the same time as well. Stack them neatly, allow the paper to pile up. Our first cut again is at 11 1/4, and then slide down to 7. Rotate and cut at 10. This large piece gets set aside to be scored. Pick up the narrow strip that fell and we'll cut it at 5 1/2. This piece goes in pocket A and the little scraps in pocket D or pile D, whatever you're doing with that. And then this larger strip that remains, trim at 5 3/4. Rotate and trim at 3 3/4. Once again, that gives you your nesting panels. They all go in pocket C, all 4. And then the narrow little strips we can place in pocket D for now. And then our last 12-inch strip, we'll bring it down a little bit so we can see the number 7. Place this one in pocket C, Charlie, and the little ones in A, Alpha. Now with those 4 done, we're moving on to step 2 of our instructions, and we're going to trim, once again, 4 papers the exact same way. Keeping in mind that if you have paper of your own, you can recycle this great formula of 12 single fold cards with any sets of paper that you have. So just grab 2 each of 5 different colors, locate a coordinating print, and you can repeat these instructions as many times as you like. Let's take the brown and make sure it's dipping top to bottom once again. And the same with the blue. We'll cut them at the same time if you're comfortable with that. This way. Okay. Sometimes it's a little harder to tell the paper grain than others. We'll trim this at 11 3/4 and 6 1/4. Rotate and cut at 9. That's going to give us some card bases to be scored. And the remaining strip will cut at 3 1/2. Place this larger piece in pocket C, Charlie, and then the smaller one in A, Alpha. Grab the larger remaining strip. We'll cut at 8 1/2. That's going to give us our card base. And then the rectangular piece that fell, trim at 5 1/4. And we'll go in pocket B for that one. The remaining little snippets are not used. You can save them or put them in pocket D right now or just dispose of them. They're really pretty small. Let's do all that one more time. We're going to take the ivory now and just once again check our grain direction, making sure we flop to top. And then the red, same thing, flopping top to bottom. Cut at 11 3/4, just a little scrap there. And 6 1/4. Rotate and cut at 9. Set this aside to be scored. Pick up the little rectangle that fell, and we'll trim at 3 1/2. This larger piece goes in pocket C, and then the smaller one A. Next up, this wide strip that remains we'll cut at 8.5. That'll give us our last two card bases. Set them aside to be scored. Then they take this narrower piece here and trim at 5.25 and file in pocket B. And the remaining scraps can be disposed of or saved in pocket D. I think they crawled underneath my trimmer. We're moving on to the gold. Now this paper does not need to be folded, therefore we don't care about the grain direction. We're going to trim both sheets at the same exact time. So we'll cut both at 11.75 and 6.75. Rotate and trim at 9.5 and 4.75. Both of these pieces, I should say all four of them, they go in pocket C, Charlie. And there are two little rectangles that you have that fell from the end. We'll trim these at 6.5 and 3.25. Take these four pieces and place them in pocket B, Bravo. There are some little scraps that fell. Then you have this other remaining larger piece. We'll trim at 8.75 and 5.5. Rotate this so it's vertical and trim at 2.5. These longer, narrower strips all go in pocket A. And the wider strips here, all four of them go in pocket B. And you can get rid of these little gold strips, dispose, or file in pocket D because I didn't use them. We are going to trim one sheet of the duplex. And again, it does not matter which way it's facing when you trim it. What matters is that you just have one sheet. Grain doesn't matter. We won't be folding it either. Let's cut at one sheet at 10.25, 7, and 3.5. Gather the two pieces that are the same. It's 3.5 by 12. We're going to stack them neatly together and cut at 11 and 5.5. All four of these panels go in pocket C, Charlie. And there are two little pieces that fell from the end. You can put those in D. Now we have a wider piece. It's just 3.25 by 12. We're going to trim at 9, 6, and 3. And all four of these pieces that should be the same size go in pocket A. Now we have this longer strip. We'll cut at 11 and 5.5. The two narrow strips go in pocket A, and there's a little tiny scrap that fell. I just popped that in D, just because that's where I'm storing the stuff I didn't use. Do the other duplex print, we'll cut at 11.25, 9.5, 6, and 3. All right, the piece in your trimmer base and the one that just fell, those two are the same size. Let's cut these at 9.5 and 4.75. And gather up the four pieces that you made that are the same, the two in the base and the two that fell. These are all go in pocket B, Bravo, and then there are two rectangles that are scraps for pocket D. Now we have a wider piece. This one is 3.5 by 12. We'll cut at 11, 8.25, 5.5, 2.75. And taking all four of these rectangles that are the same for pocket B, there's once again a little scrap for D. And our last strip here, we'll cut at 11 and 5.5. Taking out the two pieces that are the same, those strips go in pocket A, and then you have a scrap plus a long strip for pocket D to use as you decide. Okay, that was all of the regular 12 by 12 paper. Now we're going to be trimming the Cutaparts. Now on the Cutapart, if you look at the outer edge of the sheet, you're going to see some text there that says remove paper outside of corner cutting guides. So before we can trim this into individual pieces, we're going to cut off those edges. So here we go. I'm going to try to place this in my trimmer as near to that mark as I can get, but not past it. And then when I come back on my 4th rotation, I'll clean that edge up. Because with this rotation and that first cut, now I can see where the silver blade is at the top and bottom of my trimmer. I'll rotate again. And again. This time I can look at my 12, see how things are lining up over here, looking quite perfect. And another rotation here, and now I should be able to cut at 12 here as well. That was my cleanup cut. So I'll get rid of these little strips. And I've ended where I want to begin. So it should say a Christmas wish should be in the upper right corner. And always make sure that as you're trimming, you're not going to cut through any artwork. So if I find 9 3/4, I should be well placed to cut. And then 7 1/4 and 4. And rotate and trim this now at 11 1/2. And 5 3/4. These two pieces, pocket B, Bravo. There is a small little scrap. Jacqueline puts art there because she doesn't want you to be confused by anything. So you can just put that in D. I don't think I used any of those little extras. There's a little extra at the end of this one too. So place it in the trimmer with this little pine bough on the right and cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. Thus creating 4 pieces that are the same size, going into pocket C, Charlie. And then once again, a little scrap for D. Again, there's going to be a little narrow strip on the right. We'll cut at 11 to remove it. Then 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. That gives us 4 more pieces the same size for pocket A and a little guy for pocket D. Last but not least, we'll take these sentiments. It does not matter which way it's in the trimmer, and we'll cut at 9, 6, and 3. All of the pieces, pocket B, Bravo. And we have one last sheet of Cutaparts to prepare. I'll trim the edges here and then line up my grid marks with the edge of my blade. Rotate. It's a little late to tell you this, but you can slow down my delivery here by changing your playback settings in YouTube. Just choose settings, playback speed, 0.75. That'll slow me down. Okay, and then I'm just going to double check this edge here. Get rid of my scraps. And I want to position this paper so that the large blue blocks are on the left edge. And if I go to 8 inches and then 4 inches, and divide this up, rotate, and once again, we got to get rid of that little guy. So we're going to cut at 11 1/2. And 5 3/4, giving me 2 large pieces per pocket B, and then the narrow strip for D. The next strip, super easy, cut at 9, 6, and 3. And all of these go in pocket C, Charlie. And on this one, we're going to make sure Merry Christmas is on the right. We'll cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. And all of these go in pocket A, Alpha. And the Merry Christmas you can throw in D if you like. And that's the end of our trimming. So I will lock the blade of my trimmer, and then just when you move your trimmer away, just be reminded that it's holding up your accordion pocket file. So from now on, don't try to stand up your file. Just lay it on its back on your work surface and set this aside. Swap it for your score pal. Remember earlier we set aside all of these card bases to be scored. Well, the truth of the matter is if you don't have a score pal, this is a good opportunity to not have one. They all will simply fold in half quite easily because we trimmed the paper in cooperation with the grain. So you could use your score pal as a jig, place the paper into the score pal vertically, and then just bring the bottom up to the top and then make a crease. You could go through later with a bone folder and just, you know, add the little crease burnished. But I do like to have a score line, so let's do that. I'm going to place this first with a red and this one horizontally so that you see the 8.5 up here, and we'll score at 4 1/4. Now, if you just dig a little bit deeper, you're going to find the blue and the brown version of that paper size. So if you place it again horizontally, you'll see 8.5 here. Score at the asterisk at 4 1/4. And then same thing here on the brown, 4 1/4. All of these pieces can be placed into pocket A. And then we have the next largest size. This one's you're gonna see 9 up here if it's horizontal, and we'll score in half at 4 1/2 this time. So just be aware. Again, confirm that it's at 9 and score at 4 1/2. 4 1/2 on the blue. And we should be scoring on the brown with the texture side facing up at 4 1/2. These will be used in card set B, so I'll place them in that pocket so it's ready to go for me later. And our final set of cards, this one should be 10 when you look at the measurement, and score at 5. So again, these are all scored in half. You could skip the scoring step, but again, I feel a score line just makes for a nicer looking fold on your card base. Again, the brown should be scored texture side up. Place these in pocket C and you can get rid of your score pal. The next thing I want you to do is grab your accordion pocket file, empty everything out of pocket A, and then just sort all of those little pieces because there's a lot of nesting going on in this kit. Put all of the pieces in order by size. Working with the card bases, I'll take the brown card base, then the red, which is already folded because that's kind of what I was doing, and then I'll do the blue and the ivory. Okay, so I got my card bases. Next up, each one is going to get a gold strip. That's always easy. And then we're going to distribute a color. So let's distribute the long blue and then the ivory on this one, the red here on the blue, and then the brown. Next, we're going to grab the long strip of the print, and you can just choose whichever print is your favorite. I am consulting my instructions for what I did on my original samples. So I went gold print, blue side, gold side. Next up, I'm going to alternate the other print. So if I use the gold print here, I'm going to flip to the blue print here, then gold, gold, and blue. Then I need another color, matte, so we'll go red, ivory, brown, and blue. Then sentiments, so we'll go horizontal, wishing you the timeless treasure. Then a vertical, let this season fill your heart. Another, let this season fill your heart. And then wishing you the timeless treasure of Christmas. Now again, if you're using the sacred sentiments, all you need to do is just say horizontal, vertical, vertical, horizontal. You'll see how it all comes together. And the same holds true for the inner sentiment. So the warmth of home are my horizontal cards, and then Merry Christmas for my vertical cards. If you want, and this is completely optional, you can choose a color to add to the inside of your cards. I just kept that little piece in there. It could be a scrap, or you can use it on the inside. Now we're just going to make one of these cards together. So I'm going to take this ivory card and grab the smallest envelope and just slide all of these pieces into that envelope and set it aside. Take the next one and do the same thing with the blue. And that way, when you're going to finish these cards, after, you could do it right away and pause the video, or you can do it later on after the video is done. So if you're going to get together with girlfriends later, you could work on this because you already have a sample that we can, do together. Okay, so let's get assembling. This is so super easy. You're going to love it. I'm going to begin by applying some adhesive to the gold strip, the blue strip, and then I'm going to take the blue side of the duplex. It gets a little confusing with the duplex, like what is going on? Which side do we put adhesive on? And I'm going to take my grid ruler and place it along the bottom edge of my card. Oh, I never folded the card base in half. I should probably do that just so that we're doing this on the right side. I'm going to flip the card over to find the bump of my score line, and then I'll fold it in half. And I always just double check to make sure the edges are aligned. Then I'll put it on the table and add my crease. I'll take the bone folder and just burnish. Okay, now we're back to the ruler. I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of this card. Sorry for the glare here. So if the ruler is resting along the bottom edge, I'm just going to go up 2 cubes to the first solid line. Doesn't matter the measurement at all, it's just that we're on a solid line. And I'm going to take this gold piece, rest it along the edge of the ruler so that I know it's level, because I have this terrible habit of putting things onto card bases crooked. Then I'm going to go up 2 more cubes from the edge of the gold, or 4 cubes from the edge of the card, and add my next blue strip. Then I'm going to go 1 more cube up. So now I'm 5 cubes from the edge of the card, or 1 cube from the edge of the blue. And then I'll pick this piece up and place it against the ruler's edge and drop it down. Now I'm going to take my glue applicator, and this is just bookbinding glue, and I'm going to add a really thin application of glue by running the nozzle against the outer edge of the blue layer, top and bottom. And then I'm going to take scissors and the gold cord, and I'm going to trim a length that's a little wider than the card itself. Not too much wider, but just a little wider, okay? Then we can set aside the big pile. There's 2 yards of that. So now I'm going to come in with this, and I'm going to stretch it across the glued area, and then just make sure it's placed. You don't want to pull on it. It has a little bit of stretch to it. You don't want it stretched. You just want it placed on top of the glue. And then the same for the top layer. Just lay it on there. Cut that a little on the long side. I don't want to over, because we're going to do this with all 4 of these cards if you wish. And that is totally your call. If there's a certain step or a certain thing you don't want to do, or you don't have time for, then make that call. So I'm just going to let that sit for a little bit and set it aside and bring in these other things here. Let's go ahead and nest the outer sentiment onto the red panel. You could use your ruler or eyeball it if you want, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Then I'll flip and I'll add this to the blue side facing up. You can elevate this if you want, or just add it directly to the card. On my original sample, I used foam adhesive. I'm just going to use regular adhesive and do a one-dimensional application of the sentiment. And then I like to place it kind of in the upper right corner, so I've got a little bit of air along the edges. That's lovely. And by now, I think I'm safe to just take scissors and trim away those wee edges off the gold cord. And that should keep it real nicely. Once that glue is dry, it's going to perform fine. Isn't that pretty? Okay, to open it up. And I'm going to add some adhesive to this little anchoring strip. And once again, if you want to use your ruler to make sure it's level, you can. I'm going 2 cubes up, 2 cubes in. That gives me a place also to sign my card or add one of the sentiments from the Dazzles sheet I'll talk more about the dazzles in a little bit. But if you wanted to, you could add something there or just leave a spot for you to sign your name because of the dark background here. There is your first card in the set. That would have been this one. It's a perfect match to my sample. Then you'll repeat the horizontal style in the ivory. Here I added Holly Jolly to the strip across the bottom. That looks really sweet. Then we'll do 2 vertical cards. You'll have this one where I've added the another little dazzle ornament sticker right to the inside there and kept it plain on the inside. Your call. And then on this one, I once again added the little ornament and the inside is plain, just the sentiment in there. Okay, so that is set A, so easy. I'm going to set this aside with my other 3 envelopes and then go ahead and empty pocket B. Sort all of the pieces, the card bases, and all of the panels out by size, and then we'll distribute them together. Now that I have everything sorted, we're going to begin with our brown card base here, and then red, then ivory, and blue. And just so that you know, I am matching up the order of placement in front of me to go with the instructions, just so that you can kind of follow along if you're wanting to do that. Next up, I'm going to distribute a color. So let's go with this blue panel, then a brown panel, red panel, and ivory panel. Easy to distribute a gold to each card base. And then we'll find our larger printed panel, and we'll do gold side, blue side, blue side, gold side. Next up, another panel, but we'll reverse the color. So blue facing up, gold facing up, gold facing up, blue up. Then a plain gold panel. Oh, so many fun nesting panels here. And our sentiments. So vertical, a Christmas wish, goes in the upper left and lower right corner, and then a horizontal Merry Christmas in the opposite corners. Then we'll do the vertical sentiments. May the joy over here and here, and then may the season, that'll be upper right and lower left. I hope that wasn't confusing, but the way that the images fit in the instructions best was like this, and I want to follow that same pattern. Then I'll take the medium-sized envelopes and shove the blue, that'll go in first so that it's at the bottom of the pile, like it's the last card in the instructions. Now I've done a batch of these cards with the Sacred Sentiments, and I literally made all 4 cards at once. It was a huge time saver. And if you're going to make more than one set of this, once you have this down to a science, and I know it's an art, but once it's down to a science, you can do the same thing and just really work quickly and easily and efficiently, which is the key, especially during the holidays. Let's start out with our brown card base, and we're going to find the bump and bury it inside the fold. And if I can dig at my bone folder here, we'll get that burnished. Looking good. I mean, this assembly is so fun and easy. Let's take these 3 panels, the blue, the gold, and the print, and we'll just apply adhesive to the gold only and the print on the blue side. And then I'm going to take this gold panel and nest it onto the blue panel, and you can just eyeball or use your ruler, your choice. And then I want gold facing, it doesn't have to be this one facing up, it could be the other way, just make sure you're keeping track. Next, I'm going to take this beautiful gold and grosgrain ribbon and stretch it across the long edge of the card. And I'll trim that. I usually keep my tape in a sand-fill dispenser ready to go with my glue sitting in the back. And I'm going to just add this across the length of the card, kind of on the right side of it. About an inch from the edge, maybe. Doesn't have to be exact. Okay, then I'll add adhesive to this. And I will use my grid ruler again to help me adhere this to the card. I think it's going to be 4 cubes. Yes, 4 cubes from the edge. And you don't have to worry about measurements, really, just cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that'll make sure that it's nice and centered if you choose to center your card. Before I move on to nesting my sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and take this beautiful embroidered holly leaf here, or quilted applique of the holly leaf in that nice metallic gold. I'm going to place it so that the edge of the leaf is kind of coming past the edge of the panel, but not to the edge of the card. And that way it can dry a little bit while I'm adding this. So I'll adhere, I'll put glue on the back of the gold panel and the sentiment. If you're not using an applicator like I'm using, like with the tape runner, consider it. It's a huge time saver and money saver as well. Extremely efficient as far as the length of the roll of adhesive inside. It goes and goes versus those other little handheld things that are, you know, really tiny and don't go very far. I will add adhesive now to the gold side of the pattern, and I'm going to place this right side up on the card, kind of with the edge of it halfway between the edge of this blue panel and the edge of the card. A Christmas wish. So pretty. Okay, for the inside, couldn't be more simple. I had a lot of paper to work with on the Cutaparts for this particular sentiment. It's going to center in there perfectly, and it's done. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so let me show you the finished cards. The brown we've already made, and then we have our beautiful horizontal style where I also planned this, and I just attached it before I added this piece. It's kind of about order of assembly, order of operations. You want to nest this, then wrap, then attach to the card base. Then nest this and attach to the card base after the holly leaves. So it's all about order. Beautiful card here, right? And that will fit into your final envelope. Remember too that you can put the Dazzle sentiments on the outside of the envelope flap too. That'll look really nice if you choose to do it that way. And now would be a great time to empty everything from Pocket C and put it in order by size. There were a lot of panels to sort through there, but it's gonna be worth it in the end, I promise. All right, let's take our ivory panel. We'll start there and then do a brown one to the right, then our blue and the red. Okay, next up, a nice easy one. We've got our gigantic gold. Each card gets one. And then we have two sets of nesting colors. So the largest one will go red, then blue, ivory, and brown. Another set of nesting colors. Here we'll go with the brown, ivory, red, and blue, just distributing colors. So it doesn't really matter, you know, which color you go with. You can do your own thing. I'm going to go blue side, gold side, blue side. Yet another color. Oh man, this was a mathematical challenge. I just wanted to use all the paper as efficiently as I could so I could do all this nesting. Blue, red, brown, and ivory. Next up, the outer sentiments. We'll go vertical, merry and bright. Horizontal, 'tis the season. Horizontal, 'tis the season. And the vertical, merry and bright. And that inside sentiment will correspond. So may this Christmas here. Then have yourself a merry little Christmas. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. And then may this Christmas bring you comfort. Large envelope that remains. We'll place the red card base in here so it's ready to go. And then we'll add the blue to the next envelope. Set that aside. The brown. And finally the ivory here. That's what we're gonna make together, so I don't need an envelope for that. Okay, so let's flip it over to find the bump of the score line, bury it inside the fold, line up those corners, and then burnish with your bone folder. Okay, this is going to be a vertical card, so we'll just get situated with that right away, and we're gonna have so much fun nesting everything. I think I'll put adhesive on this red, and I'll grab the brown to flip it over to the smooth side. And I'm gonna grab the print and I'm gonna flip that over to the gold side. Okay, so we'll nest onto this gold, and I'll grab my little grid ruler for my alignment. Okay, I think we're gonna be at 2 cubes. Yes. Okay, then the next panel will be 2 cubes again from the edge of the red. Yes. Then it's gonna be 1 cube. And I like to vary my panels, so I intentionally worked to try to make sure there was some variance there. Oh, that's nice already. Then I'm gonna take all these nested panels. I'm not gonna do any other ribbon treatment or anything. And nest this This is going to be 1 cube from the edge of the card base. It doesn't take that long to do that extra step of making sure it's nice and level. Now I'll take the Merry and Bright, nest it onto the blue, but do not add it to the card quite yet. We're going to take a piece of this little pretty double-faced silk ribbon here and 2 pieces of tape. And I just cut a length that would be long enough to wrap around the upper right corner of my sentiment here. Just bring it around to the back and secure those pieces with tape. And that looks lovely. Now let me just say this. These bows are a little lofty, okay? There's a little bit of height to them, so I just want to give you permission to not use them if you want. If you want to mail this without adding any extra postage or adding it without concern. It's a pretty flat bow, but it's still going to put a lump in your card. You never know how the post office is going to feel about it. I'm going to add it for you right now, but after I complete the inside of the card. If you didn't want to use this large bow and maybe move it over to your scrapbook pages, just go ahead and take another piece of this ribbon and wrap it around the lower corner of this sentiment. You got plenty of ribbon to use. Okay, sometimes when I order things and I think they're going to be a certain size and they come in a little bit larger or a little bit more lofty, I'm going to add this so that it's halfway between the edge of the red and the edge of the gold, just for a little balance. Then we'll open the card. And oh, I forgot to distribute our little pieces here. I'm going to go with the brown. Sorry about that. I didn't see them laying there. They weren't close enough to my eyeballs. So with this, I'll add it 4 cubes from the edge, I think. Whatever you're in the mood for. And then I can add my sentiment. Maybe here. Let it anchor this sentiment a little bit so it's not floating on the ivory. Okay, now I can take my bow. You can adhere it any number of ways. I'm going to use my bookbinding glue. Just run it along the widest edge here and I'll place it right there and set it aside to dry. Now I'll put the lid on my glue and grab these other cards. I used, on this brown based card, I used red. On the blue card base, I used cream or ivory. And on the red, I used the blue. So I'll add those pieces to the other card bases so I don't get confused. And there is your finished 5x7. The other ones, I'll show you how beautiful they are. Okay, this was the one we made. And then we have another vertical. Now on this one, I want you to see how I used the little Dazzles stickers right here. And for those Dazzles stickers, one of the things that I learned is that if you remove them from the sheet with tweezers, it works the best. It's a little bit painstaking to go back and add the dot for the J or the dot on an I or whatever, but I just think the results are so beautiful. So go ahead and add the inner sentiment if you would like. Yeah, there are the stars here, and I added Noel down to the lower corner of this one. And the bow, of course. On the horizontal cards, same thing. I added the ivory here and put Joy to You, even with the little dot over the J. I found it and added it. It's very sweet, the little bow. And then this one, I added the bow to the top just because of how Jacqueline arranged the text. I just moved the bow up here. It's still very sweet. And then I have Holly Jolly across the red. It really pops, doesn't it? Oh, I just love the contrast of the gold on the red paper. There you have it, the Boughs of Joy card kit. I hope you love this kit and the simplicity of it. I realize there's a lot of nesting going on, but not a lot of complicated assembly, not a lot of kinetic or crazy card structures. Sometimes I like to just learn and explore new card engineering, but this is not the time of the year for that kind of thing. We want to crank out a bunch of cards, and I know that some of you buy extra cut-aparts so you can create even more cards with paper that you might already own. I love to see that happen, and I hope you'll share the results with us on the Facebook chat group. If you're not already a member of our chat group, it's a wonderful community of supportive, creative Club Scrap members and friends where we can create with the same materials and share those results. So I'd love to see what you do with it. And don't forget, you can recycle these instructions. That's a great formula. I'd love to see it in another kit. Like, take a special release that was a page kit that didn't have a card kit, trim some paper like this, and adapt the Cutaparts to fit maybe those sentiments. It could be really fun. So once again, show me what you do. If you also want to make a book or make pages with this theme, we do have a Boughs of Joy page kit that's going to be perfect for that. Check it out while it's still available. Last year's Christmas collection didn't last long, so I hope you don't miss out on that if you are looking to make pages or projects in this same theme. So again, I'm Tricia Morris from Club Scrap. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, share, and I look forward to seeing you again in another workshop video.